I am with QAI Ventures, which is a VC and ecosystem builder that's focusing on quantum technologies and advanced computing, and has just opened an office here in Singapore. I will say more about that later. My official role is being the head of science and technology for the APAC region here, which means that I'm very in different kinds of capacity building discourses around quantum literacy, translational efforts. And the reason I am here and the reason I want to talk to you today is because I want to help you situate yourself in the landscape of choosing academia, developing yourself in academia, and developing yourself in academia for the purpose of maybe taking on an industrial role or a role with impact of knowledge defined through different kinds of professional trajectories. So I call it professional pathfinding and an introduction to QAI Ventures, because we may have some programs that are interesting for you if you are looking to professionally develop and claim ownership in the area of quantum technologies. Okay, I will start with a by now not so bold statement anymore. We have some fantastic speakers from Quantinuum, from RUX later on that will outline the truth of this a bit further. Basically, quantum technologies are set to impact our industry landscape in the next decade. Stakeholders decide where to allocate funding. They decide which kind of technology pathways to emphasize and which kind of commercialization strategies to form, which kind of geopolitical directions to take this technology to, how to assess it in terms of its potential. And we will be made choices about. Any actor in this field will be, in a way, guided by these principles and by these decisions. So I think it is our responsibility as potential scientific leaders in the field or scientific experts in the field to at least have the choice of acting in this kind of force field as well. A quick disclaimer, and that's a very important differentiation. Quantum technologies exhibit different pillars. I will be talking about quantum computing mostly today, just because we don't have that much time. But let it be said, there is quantum communication, there is quantum sensing metrology, cultural value and art, or quantum services as well, or more holistically speaking, quantum ecosystem building. So, in quantum computing, we exploit quantum physics to transcend binary logic, using principles such as superpositions and interference of quantum states. If we only look at the quantum computing stack, we can already see that there are a lot of different kinds of experts that are needed to advance this challenge, or to advance the different challenges, to really build something that could be tackling utility from quantum computing. We have use cases building relevant applications. We need to build the algorithms, the mathematical abstractions that actually use quantum physics to claim speedups. We have to build the software that allows us to encode these kinds of algorithms on any hardware or emulator. We need middleware to distribute these kinds of computing facilities. We need to be able to compute between classical infrastructures, so we need to be able to mediate hybrid infrastructures, classical quantum compute. And of course, we need to face many different challenges and overcome many different challenges on the hardware, on the level of hardware development. Quantum computing right now does not have a single modality, or has not committed to a single modality. We have Quantinuum here, which is a very strong representative of the ion trap quantum computing modality, but there are good reasons why other modalities are not yet being thrown out of the window, such as superconducting, solid state, neutral atom computing. And all of these are entirely different physical systems. So you saw Miele's presentation about quantum information and how we can treat it, how we can grasp the concept of superposition. None of that is tied to a single physical system. This is the idea of quantum information, and it is our challenge now to see which kinds of physical systems can meaningfully represent these kinds of ways of processing information. So there is a wealth of amazing scientific kinds of questions that we can ask about it. But the question is, when we look at such a stack and the complementary knowledge needed to take an effect and to responsibly govern that kind of set of values or potential value, Is that complementary knowledge purely technical? And I would say in an academic framework, we tend to think the only way to really contribute to this field is through technical knowledge. The answer, as I'm biased because I have been now 3 years out of academia and I had the opportunity to make first-hand experiences on this. The answer for me is, and I would say for a lot of people, is actually no, because we have these translational challenges. Tackling supply chains, understanding what policies to put in place, what access models to put in place around a computing modality that can maybe revolutionize the economic value we can generate from this computing modality, that can maybe revolutionize the way we treat data security. All of this needs to be governed by someone. Commercialization strategies, exactly so. So what other kinds of complementary knowledge do we need? People who are interested in geopolitics or in politics in general, in stakeholder management, in communication, people who are interested in graphic design, in business development, people who are interested in law, in logistics, in supply chain management, in team management. All of these different kinds of interest are further qualifying you for the creation of value in the quantum industry or the quantum value chain. So again, I think it is a responsibility for us as QAI Ventures to, and as well as an opportunity, of course, to equip scientific experts with the knowledge and skills to play a defining role in the commercialization and the translational impact of quantum technologies. Now, of course, this is more of an abstract way of framing all of this. So we see images that are more or less well taken. This is now a superconducting modality taken in a very dramatic way. We have these images of us being quantum experts, being the leading advisors for quantum technologies. And the proxy, basically, of what a quantum expert looks like is quite inaccurate. So it's very tough to find a single image of any human that would suit this proxy. The question is, therefore, when you situate yourself in this force field and decide for yourself where you want to go next, who are you actually in all of this? What are your causes? What are your curiosities and interests? But also, of course, what are your circumstances? What are the responsibilities that you have to live up to in your personal or idealistic life? And then, of course, how does that relate to the external opportunities that you are being given? And I think all of these aspects are actually what synthesize the opportunities that suit you the best. And I am here not to persuade you to go into entrepreneurship. I am here to help you understand whether that's something you want to go into or you want to develop towards to, or whether you may be interested in something else. Okay, so if we look at this technical skill set, what are the roles that we can, for example, consider? If you're only interested in technical advance, technical development and questions. In academia, also I'm very happy to discuss this and receive other suggestions from you. This is definitely not a comprehensive list. Let's say you have a purely technical interest. In my experience, that leads in terms of follow-on career trajectories to a career as a researcher, or in industry, a research engineer, or a technical specialist. There are a lot of other roles. So if you have an interest in all these other skill sets already mentioned before, what other roles are there? Teaching, professorship, all of them require some kind of pedagogic ambition or joy, I would dare to say. Ask maybe some representatives of these fields. In industry, we have product management, which is it's a highly translational role, business development, of course, graphic design, marketing, IP management. On the governmental side, policy making and advisory roles, also science diplomacy. And then where do you situate entrepreneurship? Entrepreneurship is basically a synergy of having the tendency to have an opinion about everything, quite passionately so, as well as a technological vision on where you want to take your opinions. Have a thorough sense of accountability and care, because you will probably not have what people would call normal working hours. And you will have to care for a huge amount of people that are part of your team. And you will have to have an interdisciplinary interest, being willing to connect the technology you are building with other kinds of impact statements. So if you find yourself relating, or if you find that you are relating yourself to some of these aspects, maybe you want to think about exploring entrepreneurship as part of your professional growth. And as Jane actually has told me a few years ago, when I was myself at the point of making decisions, the most important part about all of this is that you always choose again, and that you are aware that you can always choose again. But make the choices to the best of your knowledge at the point when you have to make one, and then choose again. So just a kind of a field note or an advice on what you can do immediately to expand maybe your horizon beyond academia. There are a lot of events that are happening beyond the technical minimum, or that help you to expand beyond the technical minimum. Hackathons, grassroots events, summer schools, accelerator programs, cross-department collaborations and coffee breaks. If you want to expand your field of your horizon, basically, have conversations and look at an entry point, which is seeing how you can help people. Ask people how you can help, and if the help that is needed maybe matches your interests and qualities. That will always be a great foundation for synergy. Now about QAI Ventures, which is actually the VC that I am working with here in Singapore. QAI Ventures itself is a VC that is quantum specific and was started a bit more than 2 years ago. It is based in Switzerland, but we have our own office here in Singapore. We are one of the most active VCs or the most active VC in the quantum landscape, focusing really on this technology. And what you see here is basically I think by now 27 startups that QAI Ventures has invested in, or actually has supported in growing. Of course, tackling different parts of this quantum technology ecosystem, there is the quantum computing stack and sensing communication technologies. But for the quantum computing stack, you need a strong ecosystem that enables the application development. So you need, for example, hardware partners. Here in Singapore, a few weeks ago, we had a hackathon for which we were lucky to have a number of these partners providing us with hardware such that you or participants interested in testing use cases around quantum and finance could actually enjoy access to real hardware. And I think that makes this challenge more interesting. How did we, or where does the investment come from that we are actually deploying into quantum? There is a family office in Switzerland that is based on, you may know them, the Schindler lifts. So the escalators, and when you walk around Singapore, you will see a lot of escalators and elevators. If you look at the logos on them, you might often see this logo, Schindler. The family that has owned or that has built these kinds of lifts is the family that has at one point decided they want to support the industrialization or tackle the deindustrialization of Switzerland by building an innovation campus. And they identified quantum to be a very interesting branch to do that because it's a future technology. And so they decided, one, to have a valuable technology for their follow-on generations, and on the other hand, to support the economic growth in disruptive technology, to deploy this fund in the area of quantum technologies. Why so specifically quantum? Because building an ecosystem actually takes a lot of communication and a lot of care. And by focusing on still a fairly broad domain, it's possible to really facilitate these kinds of technical partnerships, overlaps, information exchanges. We have currently 4 offices. One is, of course, in Switzerland, one is in Canada, one is in Japan, and then the second one that is, I would say, beside the Switzerland office that is very active is the one here in Singapore. I'm joined by 3 colleagues that I will show you later. You may also notice some oddness on the colors of the flags. I do not know how this happened, but it happens to be that all the offices we have are actually red and white. I promise there is no intention behind that, but let's see where we go next. Okay, I just want to illustrate, again, an ecosystem is a complex organism to handle. You need to care a lot, and you need to communicate a lot. These are all different kinds of ecosystem partners. So everyone has a certain kind of need, everyone has a certain kind of want, and a certain kind of resource they are willing to offer and they would like to offer. concerting this is actually the challenge and the opportunity, and I think the delight that comes with being an ecosystem builder. Of course, you can ask yourself, you're a VC, why do you care? What does being a VC actually mean? If you're a VC with some margin of integrity, let's say. It basically means that we support the creation of ventures and look to take a fair part in that success. So we invest not just cash, but we invest sweat, which is once you identify groups that really build something meaningful, you do your best to make that thing meaningful. But of course, you invest your time and you need to stay alive, you need to thrive as well. So you need to take a fair part in that kind of growth to make sure it's a sustainable effort. And because quantum is such a nascent field, or has been, it's accelerating quite a lot, and 2030 is really a year where I think a lot of people are looking forward to seeing what we will be able to do. But because it's such an early ecosystem, we also need to recognize that the success of these individual units and industries, entrepreneurs, really depends on the success of the quantum ecosystem. If you've ever been to a general technology conference like the Switch conference or the Jester Technology Summit or so, you will notice that quantum takes up some part, but it's a small part. And we as an ecosystem really should not waste resources on fighting each other, but we should find ways to make sure that quantum really takes a firm footing in all of that. And then lastly, in a complex ecosystem, support has many forms. Just throwing money at someone and hoping for them to do the best with it is a very insensitive approach to helping people thrive. So what do we do to support teams, and also what are we going to do here in Singapore to support teams in building value? We are going to start 2 programs. One is the Venture Builder and one is the Accelerator. And in these programs, we will help you build technical partnerships. We will help you manage IP securing, build the hardware partnerships in order to maybe run your proof of concepts, build your teams, build the infrastructure of potential customers, connect you with potential enterprises that may be interested in using your technology, connect you to potential quantum companies that may be interested in acquiring your technology, so discussing with you business models, exit strategies, all the things that are not so trivial to learn in an academic environment. So again, if you would want to make this depict this more nicely, you could call it a value engine, and you could say that it will definitely be helpful to have someone help you navigate this with some experience and a global network. Okay, so that's basically what we do. We are an early stage VC, which means that we usually are invested in pre-Series A, for those of you who know what that means, which means we really support the founding of your company, the early stage building, the early stage value creation, IP creation, and product vision formation. The 2 programs, I know this is a very ugly slide, but bear with me. Importantly for you to notice, the 2 programs are one, a 12-month program starting in Q1 in 2026, and the second program will be a 5-month program, the Accelerator, starting in summer of next year, 26. The Venture Builder is really early stage, finding co-founders and really founding your company. The Accelerator is a program that is designed for existing companies to support you in polishing the edges of your startup, to really help you anchor and accelerate the vision that you already have as a registered company. Support you also in building up an office here in Singapore. We are, for some of you who already know, starting actually a bootcamp next week. On the 10th of December is the first session. This is a closed session because it's a follow-on to a hackathon program we had happen earlier this year in September, which was exploring and benchmarking basically quantum and finance, or quantum with finance use cases. Some of you will be part of this bootcamp. It is a very small, in a way, pre-primer, so for you to explore entrepreneurship. Besides the Venture Builder and the Accelerator, of course, there will be different kinds of ecosystem programs as well, because you may not know for yourself yet where you want to go and how much you want to consider entrepreneurship. So for those of you who are not yet sure where they fit in, created this kind of user persona flowchart. I hope, and if you don't identify with any of these roles, please let me know. If you have founded a startup or are at an early stage of collecting funding, hiring people, looking for more structural support, the accelerator is very interesting for you to look at. Also, please just connect generally and say hi, and we can see how we can support you. If you are a pre-founded team, meaning a team that already has an idea but hasn't yet incorporated anywhere, looking to progress, looking for funding, ideally maybe incorporate in Singapore, the Venture Builder may be the ideal program for you. If you're a student, a researcher, or a team, and you just want to explore opportunities outside of academia, we can just chat. If you don't yet know how to situate yourself, please, I'm very happy to have these kinds of conversations. We always make time for that. If you're an academic leader who is not at all interested in industry, that's totally fine, but maybe you should think about the students you have that are interested or could be interested in this. So please connect, and we can see if we can maybe directly talk to your students or support your students. And then, of course, for established quantum companies, enterprises, partners, investors, let's see potential partners. Let's see if we can build partnerships to support these kinds of early stage ventures in maybe using your technology or really creating more value for this field as a whole. And with that, I close with showing you the team, the global team, and the 3 merry people that are part of our Singapore office. With that, I encourage you to apply for the accelerator or just follow us on LinkedIn or approach me directly. And I thank you very much for your attention.